Okay then, so let's start off with the metal clubs. Now the metal clubs, I was first introduced to them around about 10 years ago, and they were probably the first things that I started swinging around with regards to clubs. So this is where I began, and in many respects I believe it will help you if you begin here, and I'll get back to that as we carry on. So what have we got here? On this side here we have an 80 pound or 36 kilos club, and this was made by Torque Athletic. I believe it was a limited edition run. It was a challenge club. Good piece of kit, nice thick handle, nice and heavy. When I first got it, I remember the FedEx guy came down the drive and he needed like money to cover the cost of shipping it or something like that, and I was like, oh, I don't have any money, and so he's like, oh, I'll be back. So he like drove off up the hill, and I found some money, so I was like, shit, I've got to go get my club. So I ran up the hill and like chased him all the way up, and there's a holiday park about a good 500 meters away, and like stopped him, and I was like, give me that club, just got to take it. So I grabbed it off him, gave him the money, and then walked back carrying this thing, feeling very pleased with myself. Got it out of the box, thought I'll give it a good swing, see what that's all about. Gave it a swing, and it just came out of my hands, and this is what happened. If I can take this bad boy off. Yeah. Essentially, the knob broke off at the end, so I was devastated. Spent a lot of money, a lot of shipping just to get it across, and on the first day, it broke. But it's lasted me a long time since. It's a good piece of equipment, nice and sturdy. I love it really. And on this side here, there's a pair of Wolverson clubs made by the company Wolverson in the UK. These are good metal clubs. They're pretty decent. I've used them and used them with clients. They're a pretty good piece of kit. And in between, you've got different kinds of sizes ranging from 20 kilos, 45 pounds, 35 pounds, 15 kilos, 10 kilos, etc., all the way down to much smaller clubs. So, this was where I started. This is where I began my odyssey into swinging things around. I like the steel clubs for general conditioning, strengthening of the grip in particular, because these tend to be heavier than the other variants of clubs you get. Even though the other clubs tend to be bigger, these are much more denser, so you're moving more weight. On the flip side of that, these clubs tend to be smaller, i.e. they're not as wide or long. So they tend to, when they swing, there's more of a snap to it, more of a very quick, a quick transition. Rather with the longer clubs, you'll see a more sweeping arc come through with the movement. Now what does that really mean? The shorter I find, the easier it is to handle, because there's less distance, there's less leverage. A lot of people talk about leverage and all this kind of stuff, and you know, I'm not massive on going, oh wow, use leverage because that's going to improve your grip. But there is a distinct difference between using this and a longer club. Just because the other club wants to pull out more, with this you can kind of stop it on a dime a lot easier. But it helps to strengthen the grip very well, especially in the wrists. If you're using it for any exercise, it's really good. On the note of exercise, there's many exercises you can do with the club, and there's many that you should not do. I believe in simplicity, you only need to do a few things. Do a few things well, and you know, do a few things better than the rest of everyone, and you're on to a winner. So the movements I would use with these clubs, using these ones, you can use them as a pair as well, which is quite good. One exercise is the swipe, where you take a pair of clubs and you swing it behind you and you send it out in front of you. Inhaling, exhaling, sending it through. And this is a cyclical motion. It's very good exercise. It's one that I recommend that you get into if you use metal clubs. That said, when you swing, especially with a heavier club, and it comes in the back, it tends to feel like it's jerking your shoulder. A bit like when you do a kettlebell snatch and it's got this kind of braking effect on the shoulder. I personally believe that over time this is going to add wear and tear on your shoulder, because it's just like a stop. It comes in the back, it's not that dramatic, but you think time over time over time, that's just going to cause a bit of damage there. But it's like anything really. If you do anything in excess, it's going to cause wear and tear. So be smart with your training. The other movement is the mill, and you can do this with one hand. You swing it across your body, it comes around in an arc, going around like this, and then you switch arms, and that's a good movement as well. That tends to be a very basic example of using a pair of 2 clubs. You have this transition in the back here, which is quite important when you use the more traditional styles of swinging. But the reason for coming down is it makes it easier. Instead of using a pair where it's hard, you're coming down, letting momentum come through, then coming back in, and you're just using one side at a time. You're not using the coordination of both arms. There is a coordination benefit to using this, and I really like the movement myself. I've used it a lot. It's definitely good for conditioning if you're going to go up to using a pair of clubs, but I don't believe it's as good from my point of view, though it does cover more body, so it depends what really works for you. But those are like 2 basic movements. Now you can also use 2-handed movements as well. So with this one, with a bigger club, or you can even use a lighter club, I like to do a variation of the Gada or mace swing, where you'll come around, come to the front, come around, come to the front, alternating left and right. And that's a really good movement, especially with a heavy club. The reason why, unlike with a mace, where there's this long arc before you pull, you don't really do much work till you have to get it up and over. This you have to hold and work for the whole motion because it's very fast. Because there's less length, you have to really whip it over and you have to use a lot of power to pull it down. So this generates a lot of what I call close-in power, where you're very close as opposed to power out here. If you swing clubs, this may start dropping pennies for you, but when using something like this, I'll train this and the mace. I'll use this for generating very quick snap, and when I train the mace, it's more for a longer duration pull. So that's pretty much the only movement I'd recommend with a heavy club. You can do variations. You can do the swipe with 2 hands, which is a good one, and you can also do the mill. But to be honest, keep it down to basics. You know, you don't have to do 100,000 different things. You could throw in some squats if you wanted, this kind of stuff. But why? When you can use something heavier to squat with. You can use an Olympic bar with plates, you can use kettlebells, you can use anything else. This is not a very heavy weight in the grand scheme of things, so don't pretend that it is. Don't pretend that this is going to make you suddenly ridiculously strong, because it won't. What it will do will make you very strong in particular planes of motion, like any movement. Train overhead press, it's going to make you very strong at overhead pressing. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be great at doing rowing or pull-ups. Again, there's a very specific, but definitely worth starting off with. If you have no experience, look for a good set. I like them. If you don't use them already, I definitely recommend trying to cycle them into your training, and you'll see a different kind of effect. You'll be like, wow, this just wants to like come in nice and quick. And that, I think, is very good for training the hand to catch the club, especially in the handle, and really train you up for when you move up to using a pair of clubs. So, without final ado, these are my steel clubs. I hope you've enjoyed this section.